Akila. It was she who had infiltrated the astral plane of Abel's, and she secretly formed and veiled Abel's every thought and desire. Though Abel had not been aware of her subtle presence, she was active just the same. If Samael was the deceiver, Akila was his greatest accomplice. Not only had she infiltrated the astral plane of emotion, but she had done it uniquely, planning and cunningly. She had made Abel fall for the entire plan, first welding her illusions around Abel's realities, interconnecting her wisdom with emotion, making the link indissoluble. Abel had trusted her every indication, absolutely infatuated with her every whim. He became enmeshed entirely within the immortal bonds of intellect. It had been intellect which brought Abel to the knowledge of ideas, those ideas which seemed to bring comfort and fulfillment to Abel's feelings. Were not those inventions good? Did they not better his life as well as Adam and Eve's? Had it not been for this soft clothes that Adam and Eve would still be wearing those difficult leaves? Were it not for intellect, Abel would have had to eke out an existence tilling the soil like his brother Cain. Had it not been for Akila, Abel would have been still alive. Yes, this is true as well. It had been Akila, collaborating with her father and Lilith, that had made Cain so bitter against his brother in the first place. For wisdom mingled with the emotions that eventually caused the mental consciousness to fall into this state of heightened awareness, an awareness that is absolutely false. This intellect had not truly belonged to Abel. It was like a pig owning a pearl of great worth. And that was why Akila had given it to Abel, that he might become lifted up with pride. And for every action there is an opposite reaction. Abel would fall, for pride goes before a fall. True, it was Father El who had created all things. Through the Logos, great and mighty is his name, Father El created all. But it is through deception that intellect is born, the false intellect. And through darkness this mind becomes blind, and sin breaks forth. Is El therefore the author of sin? Heaven forbid. If our Father in heaven were the author of sin, there should be no righteousness, there being no measure to gauge that which we incline. It is the divine that is the measure, and perfection the goal, but deception and his daughters are the method of distinction. Thus Samael had a bit of truth to his claim, yet his judgment was far from accurate. For along with Samael and sin, Father El had also created death and punishment. Because El has weighed everything in the balance, he has judged everything before its time. Some he creates for honorable uses, but others for that which is dishonorable for a time, until they learn through the things in which they suffer. So Abel had fallen, his emotions weakened, his pride heightened. He fell victim to Cain, and now he had become a phantom. Where was Abel? Abel was out for vengeance, his spirit crying out to Father El for vengeance against his blood. He would find Cain, he would hunt him down, he would drive Cain's mind insane. Abel sat upon a cleft of ice, looking at a strange world he found himself in. This world had been created, born by the veil. This was the world of atmosphere, the transit fantasy land of Cain and Abel. That world that would drive Abel and Cain stark raving mad. Cain because of Abel and Abel because of Cain. Abel wondered where Cain might be right now. He had heard the blood-curdling groan of his brother, but the sound of his cry had frightened Abel. He had gone to the direction of the sound, but he had failed to find Cain. All that he saw was two underwater sea creatures wrestling in the water. Their look more hideous than anything he had ever seen. The sight had repulsed him, and now he had sat on a rock. Cain had carefully concealed Cain by his hideous markings. The mark or the deformity of Cain had saved his life, as Cain had promised it would until Cain had passed the 7 veils. Now Abel sat still and deathly quiet. He could hear the beat of his own heart pounding lightly, rhythmically. His thoughts lurid, fading in and out of concepts dark and bleak. Abel was all alone. He missed his father and mother, his old world of reality. He began to hate Cain for what he had done. Though Abel still had Akila, he usually felt empty, hollow, like a drifter on a journey with no end. Where would it lead him? Where was Cain? His spirit crying silently, ascending up ever before his eternal radiance. Abel feared his life, not life itself, but his being. He feared the thought of what he'd become. He reasoned within himself that he was all right. Cain would avenge him, would deliver him, but where was Cain? Why had he been left to drift here in this barren wasteland? And where was Father El, and the galactic father of the nebula, Uranus? Would Cain forget him? And would all the council of the divine ones also forget him? Would Cain go unpunished? Abel's thoughts were like little plays. There were actors who played out each argument, almost like a courtroom filled with angry people. And there in the midst of them was Logos, Cain's redeemer, advocating his release, but the arguments kept coming. Logos met the charge of every one, and the changing faces, they kept coming, adjourning sometimes when Abel's mind was distracted by reality. But they would always return, demanding and accusing. Samael's face appeared. It's his own fault. He's a coward. Then Logos would reply, better to wait upon the Lord than be as you, who bullies others and takes stock in his own opinion. Akila would interrupt. You must avenge yourself. There is no divine being to help you. Where is he now? Endlessly the voices came, always supplied with a familiar face. Abel grew weary of arguments. At least that's what Abel would believe this end of each argument to be, his weariness. Yet actually it was always the same voice that ended it and edged it into this so-called weariness. The voice of ego. Poor me. Help me. Help me. I am weary of argument. And so Abel fell back upon the rock and went to sleep, his mind drifting off into some other reality, some other realm, and he would fly away. Yeah, Abel would fly away, because Abel was given the gift of flying. Not actually flying, more like a floating that wasn't actually floating either. When Abel would imagine anything, some place or thing, there it would be. The floating was like a feeling for Abel, though he didn't really float anywhere spatially, but he floated in an emotional level of consciousness that drifted where his thought forms were applied. Now Abel was floating. There were little splotches of color around him bubbling up from beneath him. Wherever beneath him was, Abel was never really aware of spatial phenomenon. When he went upon these excursions of fantasy, only concepts, unrelated at first, yet then these things unrelated grew into huge realities, enormous monstrations of phobia. Now off to Abel's side he began to feel a color. Green at first. It palpitated like a giant heart. That's what came to Abel's mind, his life pulsating in front of him. The thought adjusted the color to red. Fear welled up within him. Abel didn't know why he was afraid. One doesn't contemplate things like that when faced with sudden danger such as this. But Abel felt the need to run. But he couldn't move. He was frozen by the primitive force of instinct. Wait, hide, be quiet. Abel waited a few moments. The heart faded slowly as his attention was caught up by the surging waters below him. Had he been afraid of the waters? That thought existed for a split second, only to find Abel barely relieved now because of the bridge that he desperately was clutching to, its path leading beckoningly off into the blurry distance. It led to the sky, or whatever appeared to be sky. It was too misty to know, but Abel began walking. The path arched high above the waters below. Sometimes he could see phantoms fly by, jeering him. Go back! Go back! Save yourself! Go back, Abel! But Abel didn't listen to them. He knew instinctively that they were liars. he felt a need to go on. He knew that over that arching roadway was that rainbow. He pictured Kron's loving hand outstretched to meet him, gently reaching out for him to come into the light. But the phantoms weren't that ignorant of his determination. They sent others to deceive him, and a spirit floated up to meet him, his face worried looking. "Look behind you, Abel. It's your father. He's calling you." Abel looked behind him, and Adam stood off in the distance. "Son, my beloved, come home. Your trial is over. You have been faithful. Now Kron is returning you to me. Come quickly. Your mother is weeping." Eve came walking up behind Adam. There were tears in her eyes. She looked up in the distance at her son, pulling her hands away from her eyes as she wiped her eyes in a downward motion. There was great grief upon her expression. "My son, come home. Do not go on and leave me here. Do not be tricked by Samael's wily cunning, as I was." Abel hesitated. He was confused for a moment. This wasn't real. It was like the heart. He was only dreaming, he thought. But was it? Abel wanted to go back, but his legs kept going down that path. Something inside him compelled him to go on. And on he went. Other spirits met him, but he kept going on. Abel reached the top of the arching bridge now, cresting the summit. Abel was startled with a breathtaking view. There was beauty all around him. This must be heaven, he thought. His heart was skipping beats with astonishment, as though his breath had been taken from him. He felt light and dizzy. This was heaven? No. But Abel wondered. It was a huge pasture with rolling hills everywhere. There were flowers and trees, as green as the truest green, and the flowers were effervescent with brilliance. A bird with tropical colors flew off by Abel's right. A herd of antelope was grazing in the distance, taking a drink from a reedy pool. Browsing upon the lush vegetation all around, Abel passed a bright red bush. He could smell the fragrance like a lilac mixed with cool green grass. Sometimes he felt the fragrance of one flower, then another. Abel bent down to smell the flowering bush. Its odor filled his nostrils with absolute delight. He smelled the fragrance. He felt the green lushness, the tall grass flowing, now almost as though bowing down to Abel's presence, as if to welcome him as the long-absent prince who had come home. The grass bending in subjection in the gentle influence of the breeze, the flamboyant little bird like a special messenger flew right near, pausing hesitantly in the air, a little warbling sound emanating from the tiny beak. He cheerfully introduced himself personally. Then out from the bush jumped Mr. Cottontail, fluffy and unafraid. He paused in the trail for just a moment to welcome the newcomer Abel. He twitched his little nose in the air, and then he bounced his head down in a small motion, as if to say, "How do you do?" Abel was mystically amused, his heart tantalized by the joy of life. "Hello, little creature," said Abel. "How do you do?" Now Abel was so excited. He had forgotten about everything else in this morbid life. All here was beautiful and serene, wonderful grace and tranquility. Abel threw up his arms with excitement, swirling around like a very young boy again. He dropped to the grass. He ran his fingers through the blades of the deep green grass. He smelled the grassiness, and he sighed. This was his home, he thought. Just then, a puzzling thought came over him. Where was he, though? Where was this beautiful place? It couldn't be a true place. Surely he ought to find out where he was. He bent his back forward as he sat up in the grass, parting in front of him, allowing him to see down the sprawling hill in the distance. Abel could see a shining thing glistening at the bottom of the hill. Could that glistening be glistening for him? Abel stood up, curious now. Running, he tried wildly to keep one foot in front of the other as the gravity pushed him down, fast down the slope, the grass parting to allow him to run, little birds flying up out of the grass, and big butterflies meandering here and there. Abel kept running all the way down the hill, and he came closing in on the bottom. He thought he might fall for trying to keep up with his own runaway feet. Now at the bottom, where was that glistening? Abel couldn't see it now. He parted through a little place of daffodils, situated precariously in the midst of the meadow. Right in the middle of that he saw a rock, and there in the rock was a sword, stuck purposefully, neatly, tightly. So this was what he saw, glistening. Abel started to reach out for the handle as though he would pull it out, when at that moment he heard someone behind him. He turned around to find his wife, Akila. Now Akila stood there, her face beaming with the biggest smile. She swayed back and forth, her gown flowing down past her knees. "Hello, my husband Abel." "Where did you come from?" Abel asked in surprise. "I followed you, silly. Where is this place?" she said. "I don't know," Abel answered, "but I think that this sword will tell us the answer." "No!" Akila gasped. "I've heard of this sword. Now I do know where we are, and this is a bad place for you and I. We must go back now," she insisted. "But why?" Abel protested. "I like it here. I want to stay." "We cannot," she said again. "If you take that sword, you will never see me again. It is the sword of awakening, and if you take this sword, you will kill me with it. There is no other purpose for that sword, but I know that you would not do such a thing as that, for I am your wife, and I love you." "But why would I want to kill you, my dearest wife? You talk nonsense. I could never kill you. Why can't we stay here?" "Because," Akila continued, "if you take that sword, your mind will grow to hate me, and you will surely kill me. It has been decreed by the angel of the presence. You must not live in this place of evil temptation. Come, let us go back. Oh, my husband, I do not want to die. If you love me, you will take me home. I am frightened." So Abel and Akila went back to the Atmospherian plane, for Abel could not bear to see Akila feel such bitterness. Yet Abel wondered about that sword. He wondered why he had been taken to this place. He thought that somehow he would learn everything about such a sword as this. He must understand. But for now he would find Akila a safer place, for she was crying, and Akila had been told this by someone, and whether it was true or not, she believed it. And Abel had to think of her feelings, for Abel loved Akila more than all else. Now Cain had been back on the Atmospherian plane talking to Lilith. Cain was resting now, recuperating from the whole disastrous ordeal with the deceiver. Cain lived in a cave. He was content there with Lilith, his beautiful bride. He loved Lilith. Lilith had been taking care of Cain, bringing him food, keeping him company, just watching out for him generally. Lilith and Cain were eating an octopod sea creature. There was red blood filtering around the cave area as Cain devoured 6 legs, ripping the tough meat apart with his teeth. Cain didn't like that spongy underpart. He peeled the skin off of the eyes with his fingers. There he was nearing his dessert. Carefully he peeled the skin off both, leaving the first to eat with the other. Lilith snuggled up to Cain, looking hungrily at his delicacy. Cain's lip curled up angrily. A short growling noise raising from his esophagus, Lilith backed off. "Don't worry, my sweet man," Lilith retorted. "I'm not thinking of eating your favorite parts. Those I have saved for you as usual. My goodness, you have become nervy lately. Are you still upset at that incident with Samael? You must forget that most unpleasant experience." "I will not forget that experience," Cain replied pertly. "'Tis that experience that has changed everything. Everything in our lives has been changed by that. Yes, nothing is or ever will be the same now." "But what? You aren't referring to us, are you? Our relationship hasn't changed, has it?" "Husband, has it changed?" "Yes, I refer to you and I, to us and everything else about our lives here in this wretched world of ours. Of yours, I mean." "Whatever do you mean, Cain? Of mine?" "Really, 'tis your world as well as mine now, and you are the king here." "Indeed, I am the king, but this is what I am talking about. Me. I am the king, and neither you nor your father shall take that from me. Do you understand? If I have to destroy this entire plane with all of our children, I will not relinquish my throne to him." Lilith pulled her arm from Cain's neck, where she had been caressing him. She got up and moved across the other side of the cave. "You are angry with me?" "It was I who saved you from my father, and just in time, my Cain, for my father would have finished you. "Og! I shall not listen to my wife." Cain's voice could be heard throughout the subplane. "I will finish him as I should have then." Just then, Lilith heard a sound outside the cave in the waters. "What's that?" she whispered. "Did you hear that?" A figure was approaching from the entrance of the cave. "Who's there?" Cain hollered. "Hello?" a voice came now, but Cain couldn't make out the outline of the person. "I am Alazan. I have come to take you to Samael. He wishes to speak with you, Cain. He wishes only to talk. He desires no battle. Will you come?" Lilith looked over at Cain. "No, Cain, you must not go. I could not bear it if my father killed you. What will become of me then?" "Nothing will happen to me," Cain answered insipidly. "I shall see of this matter, and I'll be back." So Cain and Alazan, the demon messenger, went out through that opening towards hell. Cain knew not where he was going, but he followed Alazan. Alazan sped through the waters quickly. They passed through the sea almost without time. At the limits of the ocean boundary, Alazan came to a stop. "Here's where we must decline," he said. "Do not be afraid, Cain. You must follow me closely, and you will be safe." Cain smirked within himself. "Does he know who I am? I do not get afraid," he thought. This one must have little knowledge of Atmospherian. But Cain nodded sternly, showing no surprise. He could not express his distaste to this meaningless one. He would not even waste his time. "I can follow," Cain replied. "Now go. I haven't got all day." Now off to their left side was a swirling vortex like current of water. It appeared to be just an unmeaning swirling, but it wasn't. It was a door, a gate to below. Alazan went into the swirl. Cain paused for a moment. What was this? Alazan was gone. He swished down the swirling like a piece of dirt down the drain. Should he follow? Cain braced himself and plunged. There was a pulling motion sensation, then a sort of equilibrium state. He couldn't see anything. He just felt gravityless, weightless for a moment. And then he saw something. There were things blurring around him, patches of color and forms, everything slowing. Cain's face felt distorted, like a G-force was being applied to his skin. Then, still slowing, more colors and more forms, and then again equilibrium. When Cain stopped falling or whatever he was doing, he saw Alazan waiting for him. "I thought you had gone back for a second," Alazan said. "Now follow me." "Where are we?" Cain questioned. He was beginning to feel puzzled, slightly worried. Where was he being taken? Would Samael trap him here? Gang up on him here with all his host forces? Cain didn't know, but he thought not. Samael needed him. Besides, Kron had promised him that he should not be killed by anyone. Hadn't Kron given him the needed protection against any force? Cain was sure he could handle himself no matter how many demon forces came against him. "We are going to the abode of Lucifer," he said. "This is the way to my Lord's throne. Are you frightened?" Cain squinted his eyes and looked directly into Alazan's stare. "I am Cain. I do not frighten. Now lead on." Now there was a cave opening off to the right of Alazan, and they both entered directly through this mouth. It took a minute before Cain's eyes adjusted to the lighting, but Cain could see that this was a strange place. The walls of the cave were glistening, sparkling, as though lined with every jewel known. The air was glowing red and temperatures rising. Cain followed closely. Now, after several minutes of this, they came to another shaft, descending off downward and slightly off to their left. There was a hideous creature standing at the entrance. It was Gia, the gatekeeper. Gia was a huge, fat frog-like creature, his character displayed by his person. The proud one, inflamed by his self-adoration. Though he was harmless, really, he was always declaring great swelling expressions. He boasted of himself, never stopping for a breath. "Hello, I am Great Gia. You have heard of me?" "Yes, indeed. It is wonderful that you should see me. I'm difficult to see, you know. Hard to get to. Everyone wants to see me, you know. Yes, hard to find. They come to see me because I'm wise, you know." "Yes, I'm wise. Not many wiser, you know. Do you not want to ask me something? Are you inquiring something? I know everything, you know. Yes, I am the Great Gia." Alazan and Cain didn't stop to question Gia. Normally one would be detained for hours trying to pass, but Alazan was a special minister of Lucifer, and he understood Gia's pride. He ignored his boastings, and Gia knew that he should not detain these two. He was proud, but he wasn't stupid. He knew that Samael had given orders for these two to be left alone. Had these been ordinary folks, they would have been detained. Gia could inflate himself to an enormous size. He would simply enlarge his body while standing in the entrance of the shaft. He enjoyed to talk to his intruders, and when they were completely exhausted, usually they would leave. Not many unwanted creatures deemed it important enough to get through Gia that they should withstand his boring boastings. So Alazan and Cain went on. Alazan led Cain further and further down the trail, the air becoming a brighter red, and the heat was increasing. Then all of a sudden, Alazan stopped, dead in the path. "Now we wait," he said. "Wait? Wait for what?" Cain asked curiously. "What are we waiting for? I want to get on with this. Let's go." "The path leads us below. We must go down here." "Here? Where?" "There is no down here," Cain queried. "There is just rock here. We cannot go through the solid rock." "Yes, we shall descend through the rock. When the movement comes," said Alazan, "it shall come soon." Cain was puzzled but said nothing. He waited. A few minutes passed, and then Cain heard a rumbling noise. "It is time," Alazan said. "When the ground shifts with molten lava, we shall descend into the depths." "What?" "I can't descend into molten lava," Cain said questioningly. "It should burn me up." "No," said Alazan, "it will not. There shall be an opening in the lava flow at the precise moment. Then we shall descend. But you must follow me promptly. If you should hesitate for 1 second longer than my cue, you will be burned. Can you do it, Cain?" Cain shook his head. "I will do it if you do it," he said, "for I know that you would not jump unless it was safe. You would not purposely jump into a boiling lava. I'm sure of this. Yes, I will do it." They waited only a minute while the ground beneath them moved with a stream of molten lava. It boiled up like porridge in a pot. Cain wondered what caused this stream to part, but he didn't ask any more questions. Then Alazan shouted, "Now!" and he jumped, but the lava was still very much flowing. Cain stood there watching Alazan as he fell. It took only a split second, but it seemed to hesitate in Cain's mind as he gazed at Alazan's courage. Cain jumped, the lava still flowing beneath him. He fell the 90 feet or so that it was to the bottom of the crevice where the lava flowed. Just then the stream broke. Alazan just missed that last curdling splash as it opened momentarily. It stayed only open for a split second, just long enough for both he and Cain to fall right in through this narrow hole. Well, they landed in water. It was warm on Cain's skin. His heart had been pounding fast, but the warmth of the water around Cain's body soothed and relieved his fear. He felt safe again. But Alazan didn't slow down for Cain to take stock of his surroundings. He just shoved off quickly through the water. Cain kicked his tail out, swishing the water behind him, following Alazan more closely now. Swimming through the huge cavern of water, Cain could see giant serpents slithering through the water. Alazan paid no attention to them, so Cain felt a little reassured that they weren't some demon army come to meet him for the little less than impending doom that Cain worried of. Yet these serpents were quite unique in some way. The cavern seemed to radiate as it glowed, changing from a bright red to a dusty reddish hue, the color refracting somehow off the scales or whatever these creatures had. The serpent creatures almost seemed metallic, though Cain couldn't be sure. He thought that some of these creatures were speaking to each other. Some were off in groups huddled in circles as though conversation was ensuing between them, yet their mouths didn't move. If they were communicating, it must be through the refracting radiation, which Cain suspected was coming from their scales, actually emanating from their bodies. Earlier, Cain had thought that the red hue had been coming from fire, but now Cain imagined that these serpents were the culprit, though he didn't understand why they should emit this fiery red color. These creatures must serve some purpose to Samael, he thought. Were they communicating with Samael that they were arriving? Well, finally, Cain thought he could see something ahead. It was like a giant opening in the solid rock. There was crystal formations with glowing colors everywhere. They hung from the ceiling, protruded from the bottom. They lined the path, and they looked like a giant road of jewels placed in their rock-like settings, and they glistened of emerald, ruby, and topaz. Ahead, Cain saw a rising terrace of stones. It spiraled toward what extended higher. The sparkling of the jewels mingled with the brilliant and emanating red creating a dazzling expanse of absolute beauty. The serpents were everywhere now, slithering around, all clustered in groups, all looking at each other as though mirrored by the other. They seemed to hold to a distinct pattern. They reminded Cain of the jewels. As the jewels refracted, the serpent creatures emanated. Cain felt very uneasy. Now they were ascending the steps as they spiraled to wherever, and the air turned now from red to darkness. It was really blackness, only the eyes of the serpents emanating now to show them the path upward. At least Cain thought it was up. It would be hard to know whether it was actually dimensionally up or not, since they had come through so many switchbacks on the trail. Who could tell if it was up or down? No matter. It looked like it was up. Now the path was still being brightened, either by the jewels or the serpents. Cain didn't know. It was like being in a deep underground chamber, so deep under the ground that nothing but voidness could ever enter. But the blackness wasn't really blackness, in the traditional sense, since if it had really been black, Cain wouldn't have been able to see it at all. As it was, Cain could see by the soft glow of the emanating jewels. But still it was black, in some other way that Cain couldn't explain. This was strange, though, to Cain. How could darkness be so black all around, except for little emanating sparkling refractions, which neither lighted anything around them nor served anyone's purpose? They just lighted themselves. There was no other thing seen but the sparkling jewels. Around them was darkness, as if they were walking through utter hopelessness personified. The air was not air. It was voidness, emptiness. There was no sides or any bottom, no top. There was just void, nothing everywhere. But Cain followed Alazan on. Finally Cain asked Alazan, "Where are we?" Alazan hesitated, and then he stopped and he looked at Cain. You don't know where we are, Cain?" "No, I certainly do not," he answered. "Should I?" "Oh my, I only thought that you knew. This is the realm of Samael. We entered his first gate when we passed through the darkness. This is the first subplane of Tartarus. This is death, and this is where you must pass to see Samael. You've died, Cain." "What? I have died? Are you insane? I'm not dead. I'm certainly alive, and so are you." "Oh yes, you are dead, Cain. You agreed to follow me to Samael, and I warned you that it would be rough. And you in your pride did not hesitate, and you boasted that you could follow me. Now we are here. There is no returning to the place that you have come from." "But I said I would come with you to see Samael," Cain blurted. "I did not agree to die. I don't see anything here. Oh, but you will see Samael. But only by dying may one truly see Samael." "So you see, Cain, you did agree to die, but," Cain continued with his argument, "I have seen Samael before, and I was not dead. What you say is not true. Not only did I see Samael, but I fought with him, and I won." Alazan shifted his head in sympathy for Cain. "Oh, silly Cain, it was not Samael, the Absolute, that you battled. 'Twas only your image of him. You agreed to see him as he truly is, and for that you must descend into these depths." No, I am not dead, and I will not go on, and I will go back," Cain cried. "As easily as I came, I will return. I am no fool, you wretched Alazan." But Cain couldn't move. He tried, or he thought of trying, but he couldn't. Cain thought he was moving his feet, but he couldn't be sure since he couldn't see his feet. Only darkness. Neither could he feel his heart pumping. Panic began to rush into his mind. The only thing Cain thought he still had left, his thoughts. And they were frightening. He felt like a brain sitting in a jar on a dark cupboard shelf. The lid tight, the cupboard door closed. Alazan spoke again. "Now we have left the physical world. There will be no more sensation after this, only thought. You may continue by using your mind in a different way than you have been accustomed to. Before you received impressions from the body, and the body moved through the realm of material. It sent its messages to your mind through many avenues of channel. There you interpreted everything second-hand. Well, now you will experience reality, apart from channels. Your senses are gone, Cain. Use your mind. Death is not as bad as you've been told, delusional Cain." That one you called Cain has deceived you. For true death is being in the body. There your mind is cut off from the reality by seeing nothing truly, only secondhand. Cain began to have an impression. No, wait, this was not an impression. It felt different. It was not a feeling. It was just Cain. And Cain was something else now. Not that Cain was somewhere else, feeling something else, but Cain himself was the place and the object. Cain could not feel anything otherworldly, anything outer, anything that was inside or outside of him. Everything he felt was part of him. This, said Alazan, is the second subplane of Tartarus. It is Abaddon. All that is not truly a part of you will be destroyed here. You will not experience yourself now. But where is Samael? Cain protested. You will see him, Cain. Be patient, Alazan promised. Cain's mind was swirling. Now all that he was swirling. And everything was swirling by like disintegrating ashes before the melting fire. It took several minutes as Cain and Alazan swished through the swirling. It was like Cain's mind was shut up in a nutshell, his being only a pinpoint of space now inside the swirling passing memories all disintegrating. Cain cried out, Father El, why hast thou forsaken me? I have sinned. Please forgive me and redeem me in your kingdom. Then the lights went out for Cain in a tremendous force, a lunge or something. But there was no answer from Father El. But Cain wasn't entirely gone. He still felt conscious of his being. Although he didn't understand where he was, he began to sense that his being was fragmented. Parts of him seemed to be in different places. Although it was strange, Cain felt gladdened by this. At least he wasn't entirely gone. If there was still parts of him, he thought, maybe it wasn't over. It was like he could experience everything in the universe all at the same time. Not really everything, but everything or many things at once that his attention was grasping. And though he grasped at many things, he couldn't really hold any one thing for any time period long enough to comprehend it. Cain longed to be back in his body, where he could see one thing at a time, where his being was channeled in some harmony. Here there was no set pattern. All was changing and disappearing constantly. If this was Samael's world, Cain didn't like it. He felt that feeling the most, dislike. It was a torment to him, like being a passing desire with no way to fulfill its longing. Cain wanted rest. Now, Cain saw Samael in the void, not really Cain's being, just some one part of Cain, a fragment off somewhere. There he was again, a slithering, glowing red dragon-like serpent. This time some other part of Cain, and again multiple times, all at once multiple glimpses, pulsating with the emanating serpent. Cain's mind perceived Samael everywhere. He was angry with Samael, but he could not know anything beyond wrath. He could not speak, he just looked on in horror. Just then, Samael rushed in upon Cain. Cain felt tremendous fear. Samael opened his mouth and he devoured Cain. And for a split second, Cain could feel the suddenness of being swallowed up. Yet, there he was. He was still standing there, peering at Samael. Again, he saw Samael coming at him. He felt the sensation of being swallowed up. Cain was feeling weariness now, along with fear. He felt utter despair. Endlessly, Samael devoured him over and over until Cain heard a voice. It came from within him somewhere. Cain! Cain! Echoed the sound. Cain replied, Here I am! Here I am! Cain, you must conquer your fear of Samael. For if you will understand his cunning and not be afraid, you will conquer him. Then the voice faded. Cain felt dismayed utterly. Where are you? I shall conquer my fear. But the voice didn't return. Only great jaws coming at him from all sides. Wait, who would Cain believe? Cain or Samael's messenger Alazan, who says Cain is dead? I'm not dead. Satan has no authority to kill me. Only Cain has that authority. And Cain had promised Cain that he could return to his home. This must be a cunning trick. Hope began to shove Cain's fear away. This can't really be happening, Cain thought. One can only be eaten one time, and I'm not dead. I still feel hope. And where there is hope, there is a way. And now the fragments began to fade. Cain felt like a weight was being lifted. There was glimmers of light beginning to shine around Cain. Cain recognized the lights. It was the jewels he had seen before. But this time there were only 12 dispersed around him in a circle. And in the midst of that he saw what appeared to be the great deceiver. But was it? How could he be sure? After all that Cain had gone through, he could not be sure. Although Cain wasn't sure what or who this creature standing before him among the 12 jewels was, he was sure of this. He was sure that he was aware of himself again. There were no more fragments, only Cain, whole and witty as before. He looked down at his feet. Yeah, he had feet again, and hands, a tail, all was there. Oh, great relief. Who are you? Cain replied with his usual smugness. I am Samael, the being replied. Are you sure you are Samael, or are you only my own image of Samael? Cain replied pertly. I am truly Samael. See these 12 stones here? They are my method for refracting myself. I am seen throughout all the world through these jewels as they refract my hideous image. Ah, Cain thought, so those serpents were all refractions of you. Yes, Samael answered, very clever, don't you think? No, not clever. 'Tis evil, Cain roared madly. How many have you fooled by this, O evil one? 'Tis no game, Samael explained quickly. This is truly death, and I am truly Samael. But I am not dead, Cain replied. Yes, you have overcome your fear. You have overcome the first death. For, Samael continued, fear is the first death, oblivion is the second. You must still conquer these, but you have done well. But I will surely have you the next time. Samael spoke up again. Do you like my palace? My palace of jewels. Cain looked unimpressed. Yes, it's quaint, though I have one better on atmosphere. Mine is for a noble purpose, though yours is for nothing good. Ah, Samael returned the enthusiasm. Nothing good, you say? And is that supposed to be an argument for my palace being inferior to yours? Does one have to be good to be valuable? Can you tell me why good is better than evil, you delusional Cain? Well, Cain began, I should think it is for 3 very nice reasons. First, because Kron commands us to be good. Second, because the nature of good is likable, while evil is horrid. And third is because good will overcome and destroy evil, which is what you claim to be. You claim to be evil. You don't deny it. No, Samael answered. Just as you say you like good, I like evil. It suits my nature as well. Cain continued. That is the greatest of reasons, because I, being good, shall overcome you. Ha ha ha! Samael laughed thunderously. You are very clever, Cain. I can see that I shall not win at the game of wit with you. Yes, what can I win you at? Shall we play a little game? The winner of which shall receive the other's kingdom. Why should I want your kingdom? Cain spouted. You wretched evil one. I have no need of your kingdom. Ah, Cain, but you do. For my kingdom is greater than yours. I own not only your plane, but all others you see. For I am God. Mine is superior because it is larger. But Cain retorted, if this be true, why is it you ask me for it? If you own it already, why do you need me? Is this not an indication that you actually own nothing? And I wonder, do you really have a kingdom at all? You say you rule my father's kingdom as well, but this is not true. My father commands the animals on earth, and they all obey him. Also, Eve, my mother, belongs to him, and not to you. I perceive that you are very wise, Cain, but herein you have erred, and I shall prove it by this statement. Your mother Eve did not actually listen to Adam. Not at all, but she obeyed my voice when I commanded her to eat from that fruit. Who, then, really is the ruler of kingdoms? Yes, who is really the ruler? My kingdom is a kingdom that is above all kingdoms. Did not Adam himself, your father, did he not obey me in the end? And yes, the animals too. Did they not come under my spell when I commanded them to be fearful of Adam? They do not obey him, but rather it is to me that they listen. As for your kingdom, 'tis I who rule that too. For Lilith is my sister. I command her always, and she always obeys me. She will not listen to you, and if I were you, I would not test this fact, for if you do, she will surely show you who she is. And she is not loyal to you. She is loyal to me, just as your mother Eve was loyal to me. Now, if you insist upon trying my patience, I will turn your world upside down. How much better would it be if you could just simply subject yourself willingly? It would go easier on you, Cain. Cain didn't answer Samael back this time. He felt somewhat confused. He had never thought about these things quite like that. But Cain was determined not to bend. Cain stood without expression on his face, just staring at Samael, and Samael continued. I know what you want, Cain. I understand you. Cron does not understand you, nor the one you called Father El. The Divine Council wants their own desires to be done. But I know you want to be happy. I understand your cravings, your thoughts, and who you think you want to be. You think you want your old life, your family. You think you love and you care for that. But deep within, you have other desires more lustful. And I know that the one you call Cron has told you that you could go back after 7 gates of vengeance. But I have a better plan. If you will just submit willingly to my plan, I shall give you your desire and exalt you above this person you call Cron. I shall make you the heir of my kingdom, and second only to myself. You will rule all planes with your beautiful wife Lilith, my sister. Indubitably, Cain answered. And what is this plan that would defeat Cron, Father El, and all the gods upon the Divine Council? Ah, you would know my plan, would you? Samael said, but you know it already, for I've told you. Now it is not a lack in your hearing faculty, but rather your inner ear, that one of understanding, or perhaps you do not wish to know, or better yet, you have felt weak and you're ill-suited for this rivalry. My plan is precisely what I am doing. I already rule all planes. And this one you call the Almighty, is he not at my mercy? Can he stop me from ruling all planes? All things are governed by evil, and I govern evil. Almighty indeed. It is I, rather than he, who is almighty. Cain answered Samael, Yes, you may have a point, but I do not know if it is valid. I shall have to think upon these things, then I will answer you. As you wish, Cain, was Samael's reply, but you will see in time that I am right. Now, go, think, dream, question. There is much time. Yes, time is on our side, you know. Time is our greatest ally, and a great and mighty king of his own merits. So Cain went out to atmosphere, guided by Alazan. He found Lilith waiting for him there, and he was very confused. Cain spoke not to Lilith for many days.